Well, Steve, I don't think either one of us would. I'm speechless. Here we are, post game chop up with Nate, Steve at the Voice of College Football, and Florida State loses to Jacksonville State, 20-17, on a 59-yard pass. Not even a Hail Mary, just poor execution by two defensive backs, which allows them to score. There's a lot to digest in this one, Steve. What are your initial thoughts?
I mean, off a short week, I expected some flatness. I expected a closer game than most would have expected, but good night. Like, the amount of just stupid penalties, the drop passes, like that stuff it's unforgivable. Those guys don't even let them see the field anymore. You want to drop wide open passes? By there's a spot on the bench. Go sit over there. You want to have false starts on a third, fourth year offensive lineman, and multiple false starts on those. Like, go sit on the bench. I don't care if there's nobody else. Put in a walk on, because that stuff just killed any momentum that we were able to build. Start building momentum, boom. Like, you can't win ball games like that. Just the stupid penalties, the drop passes, the inconsistency on defense. Like, how do you go for the ball on that last play instead of just making the tackle? Just make the tackle. Who cares if it's a 58-yard pass? It's not a touchdown. The game's over. We win. Like, that's some stuff that's got to be looked at hard by these coaches, and like some kind of message has to be sent like this. You don't win football games like this. You don't win football games like this. And short week or not, like that's unforgivable. Like, you can't do that.
Let's start here, Steve. Do you put this game on the defense and had Miller?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, Jacksonville State has what, 2.5 drives in? I mean, I guess 2.5 drives really the entire game. If the offense makes catches, doesn't false start, it's not even a game. Like, putting 17 points up on Jacksonville State, that's ridiculous. So I personally would put it more on Norvell in the play calling, not running the ball down their throats, and the receivers. You got to catch the ball. Like, Norvell's offense is predicated on making big plays. When those big plays present themselves and the receivers drop the ball for an easy walk-in touchdown, it kills you. It kills the momentum, and it kills the stuff that he's building on, the Norvell's building on. And all I got to say about the Wildcat is we better be building something for a future game to where we do something off of that, because just sitting there lining up in Wildcat and just running Corbin every single time, it's easy. Like, it's easy to stop that. So we better be building something to where we're going to hit a pop pass or something off of that in a future game, because it's killing us right now, and it's not working. On that third and short there at the end of the game, line up in the ace formation, boom, hit Corbin right off tackle or right up the middle. We'll get the first down. We'll get it. Don't put him in the stupid Wildcat. Like, I don't know. I'm not a fan of that game plan. I know we're trying to work on stuff, in the passing game and trying to get some different looks and stuff like that. But you gotta get the win. You got to get the win first. You got to put up some points. 17 points is not it's not acceptable.
Yeah. So let's jump in. I have Wildcat written down in big letters because I just don't understand why Florida State wants to go into a situation that makes them a one-dimensional, easy to know what they're going to do offense. Corbin's not passing the ball. Why not put Travis back there, run RPO? Why not Fickle in there? I don't understand it. I agree with you that you lining up an ace. They were, Corbin had 7.3 yards per carry and 15 touches, and he was hot all game. I question the play calling. I don't, you put this on the defense because they let them score to win the game, but at the end of the day, they scored 17 points. You got to look at the execution of this team. You have to look at the drop passes. You have to look at the play calling going away from the running game, and it was just, I would say dominating Jacksonville State. And why have Milton throw 30 passes when they're hopping off 7 yards of carry with Corbin? And then I question too, why do you have Toafili in there when you have Ward going for 6 yards a carry and you have Corbin playing just a phenomenal game? Toafili only had 2.2 yards per rush, and they're almost forcing that. So I really question some situational calls, and I really question some of the personnel decisions that were made. And it's the first time I've questioned in some of his play calling. Playmakers make plays, Steve. You agree?
Mm-hmm. Playmakers make play, and when you're in a playmakers offense and the playmakers don't make plays, you got problems.
Yeah. What happens? And now it's what if, if catches that pass on that fourth down. I don't think we're here.
No, if so, catches that first one, no.
Mm-hmm. Let's get into some questions real quick, Steve. Yep. This is from Till Dog. This is terrible. Play calling, receiving, lack of separation killed us all night. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, the lack of separation doesn't, I don't think it's as big of an issue. If we catch some of those passes, like the game opens up completely, but when we're not, they're like, okay, they can do some kind of, it's just so frustrating. But the play calling, and again, I understand we're trying to work on some things, and we do need to work on our passing game. I get it. But you got to make sure the game's done for and we win before you work on that, So get a lead and then start working on some on the passing game, and then start doing some throws, stuff like that. Heltman, man, I just don't understand why we keep going deep to him and we're trying to force passes to him. Like, okay, You force a pass to somebody who's 6'3", like McLean downfield. Okay, they can get up and go make a play, but you're forcing a pass to a covered guy downfield who's 5'9", 5'10". What play is he going to make if he's covered? And it's not like he's like a 5'10" guy who has like a 44-inch vert and can make plays like that. Like, never seen that from him. So it's just you can't. I don't know. Forcing the ball to Helton, who especially after that drop is it's mind blowing to me. Get Williamson downfield. Get McLean downfield. Get Parchment downfield. Force the ball to them. But I don't know that. And again, some of that it's some of that on Milton and some of that on Travis, and not necessarily on Norvell. Without being in the huddle, can't answer that for sure. But I don't know, pound the ball, let them start crushing and crashing, and once they start doing, then you're gonna have some of those easy plays to Helton wide open, so he can drop them again. But
yeah. I think we have an answer in terms of what we have at playmakers at wide receiver. I like you. I don't understand the fascination with going to Helton deep. He has no. He's not a leaper, like you said. He's not a guy that's going to go up and always get you the ball in 50-50 balls. He's a guy that you put in space and put in mismatches. You have Williamson, who played a decent game. It's hard to say a guy with 32 yards catching, had a great game. But, he took advantage of the opportunities. But he's a 6'3" guy that can go up and get the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Malik McClain can go up and get the ball. Andrew Parchment has, who we heard about coming in from Kansas, his ability in the deep game to be a playmaker. We really haven't seen that. But I don't get it. And I'm not putting this game on the defense. And a lot of people are shooting off hot takes about Adam Fuller and the defense. And we can get to that second. This is just a horrible team loss. This is a team game.
Terrible.
You have 11 penalties for 114 yards. Situational penalties continue to happen. This is a team that is still young, but isn't talented enough to make up for those mistakes. Mm-hmm. And you lose to Jacksonville State at home at the buzzer with your two reported dogs on defense making a play on the ball and not a play on the guy. To me, that is
poor play
execution. That's execution. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, people, the last play, okay, well, maybe it wasn't the best defense to call. Maybe we should have been playing back more or whatever. But like you said earlier, players make plays. Playmakers make plays. And we had two guys back there to make a relatively easy play, and neither of them made the play. So regardless of whatever defense Fuller called, the players were in a position to make a play, and they didn't make it, and that's even despite Brownlee's jumping on a short route and hesitating on a short route instead of just getting deep. Like, who cares if the guy does a head fake for a 5-yard curl? Who cares? There's 6 seconds left in the game. Just get deep. Let him get the 6-yard curl and then try to come up and make a tackle. But you hesitate on that, and then I hate to say it's a poor effort, but it looks like poor effort on the fact on Brownlee's trying to tackle him. And then it looks like a poor effort with Williams trying to tackle him. And those are some hardworking, hard-nosed guys. So I'd hate to call effort out on them, but it's just poor tackling, just poor. Why are you going for the ball? Just make the tackle, game over. End of story. We get out of a nasty, ugly game with the win. Instead, they both miss a tackle, and he walks in for a game-winning touchdown. Like, I can't put that on Fuller. He called a great game the entire game. Maybe it's not the best call on the last play of the game, but plays were in positions to make plays. That's all you can do as a coordinator, is put players in positions to make plays. He had people in positions to make a play. They didn't make the play. End of story. So people calling for Fuller's head, and it's just ignorant to me. It's just ignorant. That's it.
So Jay Gutter 34 says Willie is trash, which I agree with. Mike is a white version. I don't agree with that.
No,
I do disagree with some of his play calls. I do disagree with some of the personnel decisions he made, but I'm not going to say that he's a white version of Willie. And let's face it, Steve. Coming off of a game that they should have dominated, they lost to a team that was just vastly inferior. There's going to be a lot of questions this week in Tallahassee about the direction of the program now. All of that goodwill coming off that Notre Dame game is gone. Let's not even talk about Notre Dame game anymore. Let's talk. We can't even talk to Miami or Florida or anyone, because now Florida State is 0-2 on the season, losing to a FCS team at home, double-digit favorites, coming off just an electric environment, and they lay an egg, 20-17. I'm truly speechless, Steve. I sat there on the couch for like 30 seconds. That was worse than Georgia Tech kick six, block six, whatever you want to call it.
Especially on one side more so than another.
What's that?
I don't know. Something. My phone just started going off. I don't know what that was. It's reminiscent to me of last year. We have this big, huge win on national TV against North Carolina. We got all this momentum. People are, okay, things are turning around. Next week, what happens? Get blasted by Louisville. Was it Louisville? We get blasted by a bad team, a bad Louisville team, get blasted by them. And it sent us reeling. We got blasted the next week by NC State, I believe. And then after that, we got real lucky. I think it was that was when we had like the 4 weeks off, basically 3 or 4 weeks off, because of COVID and stuff like that. And we're not going to get that kind of break this year. So, we had a moral victory against Notre Dame. People were really high, come crashing down this week. How do we respond? That's what's going to really separate us from years past. Things have crashed down. We've really taken a punch to the gut, uppercut to the chin, all of that in that one loss to Jacksonville State. How are we going to respond next week against Wake Forest? And how are we going to play? Do we find some better personnel things and way to work things around? Are we going to try to still be cute with some things at quarterback? Does our receivers, do we start shifting towards the younger guys and start, okay, you guys have had 4 years, 4 or 5 years to make plays and do things. You're not doing it, Helton. You're not doing it, Wilson. Bye. Williamson, can you make these plays? McLean, I know you had a bad week. Can you make some plays? Parchment, are you going to be able to make some plays? Parchment, he had a nice game of all the receivers. He didn't have any drops. He caught, everything that was reasonable and to him. He caught those. So let's start going to him more. Let's start going to Williamson more. Let's see McLean. But how we respond really is going to set the tone for and really answer the questions of, is Norvell the guy or not? And I still think he is. I'm still high on him. Terrible loss, but, stuff happens, but, we got to respond next week. We have to respond next week on the road against Wake Forest. Things can get very ugly if we don't.
Again, this is a post-game chop-up with Nate and Steve at the Voice of College Football. Make sure that you guys are listening every Wednesday, the Voice of College Football live call-in show, 8 p.m. I'm quite sure we're going to hear a lot of Florida State fans calling in, asking Mark what's going on. Make sure you hit us on that follow. I'll put it down here in the scroll if you guys want to catch our Twitters. So, look, we got coming, and it's a lot of people that are handling the loss well, so here, I think this is a combination of this and youth. Dupree Hundo has that. This is the most undisciplined team in the country. I think this is one of the youngest teams in the country. And this is a team that can't afford to make mistakes. They have to play clean football. They're not there yet talent-wise. But, 11 penalties, dropped touchdowns, dropped interceptions. Calling, this is a team loss. This is coaching, this is offense, this is defense. This is a team loss. And I think this team is undisciplined very much. I think they're one of the most undisciplined. When you look at the situational penalties, Not to talk, but 55 is a walking party. He just needs to not play again until he can figure out what ineligible downfield or holding is or offsides. The loss of Robert Scott really hurt this offensive line in terms of sliding Washington to tackle, who played well again, but I just can't lean on 55. It slides Love Taylor out to tackle. And I don't know if you noticed late that they put when the brought Scott back, Brady Scott didn't play guard. Yeah. So what do you think? Most undisciplined team in the country? Right there, right?
I mean, I can't really speak on every other team. I haven't seen every other team play, but it wouldn't surprise me. And we're certainly, like you said, we're certainly at least right there because we make a lot of dumb penalties. We do a lot of dumb things. Like another thing, like the second to last drive. People are like, oh, Fuller gave up a 99-yard touchdown drive. Did he? Because if I'm looking at it, I see a defensive pass interference that gives them a first down. Another defensive pass interference that gives them a first down. A interception that's negated because of a targeting. Fuller put these people into positions to make plays. They're in positions to make plays. He called good plays. He called good calls. They sucked. They failed. So, the defense gave up a 99-yard drive, but that's not on Fuller. But you want to flip it around on the other side. I do put that on Norvell, on Dillingham. On the offensive side, they called some crappy plays. They put players in positions that they couldn't make plays. That's what you got to look at. And Fuller put people in positions to make plays on the 99-yard drive, on the last touchdown drive. They didn't make the plays. He put them in the positions to make plays. They didn't make them. And on the offensive side, Norvell didn't put them into positions to make plays. And, they almost made a few actually, but, so we're, those things were backbreaking, those pass interference and that targeting, which it was the right call. He ducked his head, he lowered his head, and it was the right call, but it broke our back and it destroyed us. So if we're not, we're very close to being the most undisciplined team.
Yeah. So Coach Norvell in the press said that the offense had no rhythm. And I think that's the layman's term to put it. This offense had no rhythm. And, so who does that fall on? That falls on the play caller, and it falls on the execution. And Norvell said that the team wasn't ready, and that's 100% on him as a coach. So what are your thoughts on Norvell kind of putting it out there that, hey, he realized his team wasn't ready and the offense was horrible, and he's up front taking the blame for it?
He's right. I mean, the team wasn't ready, and which isn't unheard of in a short week, especially after a big emotional game like Notre Dame. What did you see with Notre Dame this week? They struggled. Same thing. Big emotional win. They struggled. They pulled out the win, but largely because they had some players that made plays at the end to pull it out. Cone makes the big play, game-winning drive to pull out the win. So they had players that made the plays to pull out the win, but they weren't ready. They looked awful to start the game. They just ended up pulling it out. So Norvell's absolutely 100 right. This falls on him. It has to fall on him. Team wasn't ready. Beating a short week it's just being honest saying it, but it's still no excuse as a head coach. You can't just be like, well, it's a short week, we're not going to be ready. You got to find something. You got to figure something out to make sure they're ready. You can't, as a coach, you can't use that as an excuse. We can sit there and talk about it as, as fans and sit there and say, yep, it's a short week. I get it. I understand. As a coach, you don't have that luxury. So, it's on him that the team isn't ready. It's also on the team for not executing and for not having rhythm, that Helton drop destroyed rhythm. All those penalties destroyed rhythm. But those wildcat plays destroyed rhythm. The stuff, the second drive, with Hilton, with Milton and Travis both in and switching back and forth, and Travis coming in, fourth or fifth drive, all that stuff destroyed rhythm too. Like that stuff's all fine and dandy, but get a touchdown, get a lead, then start working that stuff in, start working on that stuff. To come with all the Jordan Travis and Mackenzie Milton stuff that second drive and just destroy whatever momentum you could have built, like, and it's just bad timing to me. Like that's you got to place that on Norvell. So, and I'm glad he's taking the blame on it. Just like Fuller last week. On the 3rd and 17. Yeah, bad execution, but ultimately that's on the coach. It's ultimately on the coach. You put those players there. So yeah, Norvell should take the blame because a lot of it falls on him.
Yeah, so let's hit up this question right here. Bo Klein, bye-bye recruits. So I just retweeted Sam McCall with the emoji of putting his hand in his head, his head in his hand, like an unbelievable. So I know there's going to be a lot of instant reaction and jumping off the ledge about Travis Hunter and what's going to happen. Yeah, you can't lose this game. You can't lose games like this, and I do think it will have a somewhat of an impact on recruiting, but I don't think it will have an immediate impact. I think kind of what we talked about earlier, especially Steve, is how do they come out versus Wake Forest? They come out, lay an egg, and get blown out. Then I think that you have a 5-alarm fire at 0-3, and that changes the situation. I'm not ready yet to say bye-bye recruits because recruits look at this thing differently. They don't look at it as fans do. They look at it as more of opportunity and business decisions. And I'm not ready to jump off a bridge there yet. Are you?
No, especially with Travis Hunter, and that guy is such a no. Part of me thinks that we can go 0-12 and that dude's going to be a Seminole in 2022. That might be expecting a lot, but so this I don't think is going to affect Travis Hunter much. It'll take more than this to really affect even a Sam McCall. That dude's all in as well. AJ Duffy, those guys are all in. But like you said, you start, you pull out 0-3 and you lose to Wake Forest on the road. It's going to start turning some heads, and they're going to start looking and start really, really thinking about it. So, I'm not too worried about it yet, but I got to see next week.
Yeah. So Florida State comes into this week coming off the Notre Dame hype. Lots of positive energy, lots of love on ESPN. They come into the night and they lay an egg against FCS Jacksonville State, losing that at the buzzer, 20-17. Again, this is a post-game chop-up with Nate and Steve at the Voice of College Football. Make sure that you listen in every Wednesday, 8 p.m. for the live call-in show. Should be a doozy because this has been a crazy day of college football, and I fully expect Florida State fans to hit the mass hysteria button if they haven't already. So, let's talk a little bit about the game itself, and what other than the last play, which we know is the biggest factor of the game. What would I know you and I both like to rewatch and take notes and then maybe rewatch again. But off the top of your head on this instant reaction, what are the three plays where you think, man, this changed the game?
Obviously, the first is the Helton drop pass. That really changed all the momentum because we were driving, things were going good, and then he drops a pass, and we end up having to punt. So that's number one. Number two is probably the first defensive pass interference on that second drive, because I believe it was a third down, and it was on Jones, I believe, and he didn't need to do it. Like, the announcers even said it, like, this is unnecessary pass interference. The guy's not going to catch the ball, drive over, boom, they punt, we get it. So to me, that's a second one right there. That was kind of killer. And then obviously the targeting and negated interception, because it's unnecessary. Even if Deloach doesn't hit him at all, if he just pulls up, doesn't hit him at all, which would be a very hard play to make on his part. So I'm not expecting that. But even if he does that and he's just there to give the pressure, it's an interception. Like, it didn't have any effect on the play, but even that, like, even if he just keeps his head up, puts his head right in his chest, there's no penalty. But as soon as he ducks his head like that, now he negates it and, just kills it. Just kills the drive, gives them another opportunity, kills all of Florida State's momentum. So I don't know. Those are probably the biggest three to me, and two of them are on the same drive. A 99-yard drive is that's unacceptable. What about your three?
I had the Helton drop for sure. I think that is I think that the fans in it keeps the environment electric. And, I think that just sets the tone very quickly that Florida State's going to come out and put the team on. For me, that's just a massive, massive miss. I think that the next one is I felt Malik McClain had that catch in the end zone. I know it could kind of go away, but I think that miss there, is 7 points. And then just the ridiculousness of on third and short running Jayshon Corbin in the Wildcat to ice the game. It just blows my mind. I hate the Wildcat. I've never liked the Wildcat. It's 10 years old, 12 years old now. Teams have figured it out. We have a master back there. The teams, you might as well just tell them, hey, just tell them to play, and this is what we're doing. So, that's my instant top three. I'll watch the game and look at it more. This was a game that Florida State shot themselves in the foot so much that, I think we can sit here and list 20. We can list 20 plays, really, if you want to be, realistic.
And that goes to what we talked about in the preview and our season preview. Remember, we talked, like, one of the first things we talked about in our season preview was those clutch plays. Like, that's what we've been so bad at in the past. And so far this year, we haven't been much better, making those clutch plays. And, there's those 8-10 plays a game that decide the game. And if you look at those 8-10 plays, I think we might have failed on every single one of them this year. This game, maybe you can point to the Sidney Williams fumble recovery as a game that changed it, which it did. It changed. It gave us a lot of momentum. We started, we scored 14 straight points after that. And then after that, it was just not good. We got to find a way and people to make those plays.
Mm-hmm. So we had a trash story here. Man coverage on the Hail Mary. Just saw the highlight. Not an FSU fan. You want to address that one? There was a safety over top of us, and he bit on a cake.
Yeah,
and that more tackling.
Yeah, I want to see the replay, but from my recollection, you had Sidney Williams that was over the top, or that was supposed to be over the top, and you had Jarvis Brownlee playing off coverage. a soft man coverage. It's not a tight press coverage or anything like that. He was, 7 or 8 yards off playing press coverage. The receiver did a little head fake for a curl. Brownlee hesitated. Williams hesitated on that. And that allowed the receiver to get, a little bit of separation from Brownlee. But even still, Brownlee was able to make up that and get there by the time the ball got there. And instead of going for just the tackle to end the game, he tries to strip the ball. Why? I don't know. And then Williams gets back there over top and has a chance to make the tackle and takes a poor angle and misses the tackle as well and walks for the touchdown. Is it the best call to be in man coverage right then? Probably not. It's probably better to have 4 guys back and deep and stuff like that, but that's not foolproof either. We see people make catches like that on Hail Marys in the end zone and make catches too. So is it the first time you'll ever see that call? The last time you'll ever see that call out of a team? No. So I don't care about the man coverage as much. Personally, I would have called something different, but bottom line is you had 2 guys that should have been there to make the play, and they weren't there to make that play. And I guarantee you Fuller would probably say the same thing as he did in that 3rd and 17. Bottom line, it's on me, but we didn't execute well. That's the bottom line. They didn't execute well. 2 people there to make a play. Is it the best call? No. Execution, coaching, both failed. I mean, you can put that all on Fuller if you want, and this loss all on Fuller if you want, but it's wrong.
So before we go over this question right here, so we have Norvell. This is his quote on the final play of the game. Ran a two deep man under, tried to get pressure on the quarterback. They still had it out, so that's why we didn't go to an immediate prevent. I understand. I think they're playing. It said ran a 2 deep man under, tried to get pressure on the quarterback. They had a timeout, so we didn't go to the prevent yet. I think they're playing to prevent the field goal range, and they got burnt. And they got burnt by poor play, poor execution. So so playing man under. I think you put someone a little bit deeper just in case something happens, but I don't know, man. Just so many question marks about play calling on both sides of the ball, late on defense, I think, but the entire game on offense. So let's get into this question right here. This whole show should be "We suck. Good night." The fact that breaking plays against Jacksonville State is pathetic. Well, that's part of this instant reactions that we talk about the plays. I would say 0-2 FSU is on the struggle bus. You lose to Jacksonville State. I think it's fair that you use the word suck. We suck situationally. We suck when it comes to plays. And therefore, the team the end result is a subpar Florida State team that is not facing another year of 500 ball at best. So, again, this is the post-game chop up, and it hurts me to just even say it up right now. Game, but post-game chop up with Nate and Steve, Voice of College Football. Make sure you listen in to the live call-in show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. If you're a Florida State fan, I'm sure it'll be very interesting to get some takes from Mark and his whole crew of people that do that show. So I do think I do like Jermaine Johnson. The way he continues to play really well. He's a double that guy. You look at the defensive line, I thought they played well. Just careless play. And this is where we're at. You look at 2020, Jacksonville State was up 21, if I'm not mistaken. It was 21-14 at the half. 2018, you got 45-44, missing a extra point in overtime, beat Louisiana Monroe. and they struggled against Sanford in 2018. So here we are 4 years in a row against a very, very, very inferior opponent, keeping them in it, and now they finally lose a game after keeping these teams in it for so long. And I think that I can't digest it yet, that Florida State has fallen enough that where they lose to Jacksonville State. I can't accept it right now. It's just very, very shocking to me that coming off the game.
Yeah.
Are you speechless, Steve?
Pretty much, like, just watching that last play, I was just like, there's a penalty somewhere, right? Like, this isn't real. Is this real? Like, this isn't real life. Like, there's got to be a penalty somewhere here. Like, something happened that, this isn't real. But, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, if you feed an alligator enough, you're going to get bitten eventually, and we've played with the fire so much with these FCS teams and with these superior opponents. Like, eventually it's going to come bite you. You can go back to, was it 2008, 2009 when we almost lost to Jacksonville State? Was it like 6-9 or something like that?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
so
16-9, Ryan Parilla. A late turnover.
Yeah, and you could talk about how Jacksonville State has all these, Power 5 transfers. They transferred from those schools for a reason and went to FCS for a reason, So at some point you just got to put these teams away early and get it over with and get it done. Stop playing with them. Stop messing around. Just, hey, we got our offensive line can run block. We got 3 good running backs. Run the ball down their throat. Get up 28-0. Put it out. Then you can work on stuff. Then you can do stuff. Then you can get backups in and see how those backups do in game situations. But don't do that when it's 0-0. Like, I see somebody say, "Can we play Citadel again?" No, we'll have 5 offensive linemen injured if we play that game again.
Correct. So let me look this up real quick. I just want to see something real quick. Real quick. So since last season, FSU lost at home to Georgia Tech. They barely beat Jacksonville State. They beat Carolina. They lost to Pitt. Beat Duke. Lost to Notre Dame, and now lost to Jacksonville State. You look at 2019, and they lose to Boise at home. They beat Louisville, NC State. They beat Syracuse. Lose to Florida. Remember when Doak was the hardest place to play in the country?
Barely.
And now you got Jacksonville State coming in. And, I guess my question for you, Steve, is where's the team go now? You got a talented Wake Forest team coming up next week. I know this is a short week, but this is not a tough team that FSU just played. So you go into Wake, and you got to expect that Florida State's going to be 7-point underdog going to this game.
If we're lucky.
What are you thinking?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think Wake's as good as many people do. I think it's a winnable game, but it's going to come down to, do we make the plays? Like, we'll be in positions. The positions and the opportunities will be there to make the plays. Do we make them? That's the bottom line. And you go down, look at the whole schedule. Like, there's not many teams that are just that much more talented than us. And this is a subpar FSU team in terms of talent, especially as you get down the depth chart. But you still look at the roster, and is Miami that much more talented than us? No, especially with King at maybe 70%. Is Florida with that defense? No. North Carolina, I'll give you Clemson, obviously. Wake Forest, no. Boston College, no. Louisville, no. So, it's going to come down to, do we make the plays when we have the opportunities? When Helton has a ball, a dime dropped right in his hand, and the opportunity to walk in for a touchdown, do we make that play? When Brownlee catches an interception, do we do something dumb on the other end towards targeting and then negates it? So looking at Wake Forest, that's what I'm going to be looking for when those opportunities are there. Do we make those plays? And for 4 or 5 years now, we have not made those plays. So at some point, we're going to have to make those plays. And, people can say it's coaching or whatever, and yeah, sure. Ultimately, it's all down to the coaches, which, being a former coach, and a former player, I don't agree with that. Coaches can put players into position, and if everybody continues to fail, yeah, you got to get better recruits at that point. But, until those recruits come, players got to make plays. They got to make plays. You got to make plays. And we're not making those plays on a consistent basis. We get some here and there, and some of us get excited and stuff like that. Oh, we got a pass rush finally. Yay. What good does it do us if we get a targeting and negates an interception? So we just, going forward, we'll be better when we start making those plays consistently. That's when things will change, is when we can make those plays consistently.
Mm-hmm. I know that there's a lot of, what ifs, and, hindsight's a wonderful thing. Should you kick this field goal? Should you have done this? Should you have done that? But, as we start to wrap up this Instant Reaction podcast, and, just really admit that this team has force, man. This team runs the ball pretty well. The defensive line gets after it. The linebackers, they struggled a little bit tonight more than last week. The defensive backs just, a lot of penalties. Just, Dotson struggled early. We saw him leave the game, didn't come back. There's a lot of question marks heading in, and that's why I had this question up right now. Not to get too far into it, but Mr. Kurt asks, who can we beat the rest of the year? And just off the top of my head, who can the rest of the year? I think W's are Syracuse, UMass, and everything else is up for grabs.
I'd say everything else is up for grabs, because I mean, yeah, we can look at UMass, but is UMass worse than Jacksonville State? I mean, if we're going to play like that,
Coach Bell,
but if we're going to lose to Jacksonville State at home, what's to say we won't lose to UMass at home? But couldn't we go out there and beat UMass by 50? Of course.
Yeah, Steve's so mad he left. So, where are we at? I want to get in some more questions before we wrap this up. So, I'm not ready to say that Florida State beat Wake Forest, especially with the way the defense is when it comes to the passing game, with the way that the execution of this team has me very concerned. Having a chance to make the plays and just not making it. So, we're in a state where, now we're in year 5 now of just subpar play. And when do we admit that Florida State, the full rebuild is in full effect? And I'm not ready to put this on one coach specifically. I think today was just a combination of poor play, poor coaching, poor, like I said earlier, poor execution. It's just poor everywhere. The Bobby Lash, you think that we're beating Florida and Miami? That would be phenomenal. I would love it. This is where we're at. Too many questions popping in. For the people asking how long before Norvell's gone, they're not going to fire Norvell. One, they don't have the money. Two, this is really year one with COVID. You got to understand that this is going to take a little bit of time. And, this is a carry from 2017 with just the poor culture, the poor accountability for the players. And then you have your poor recruiting misses, and you have Willie Taggart. There's just a lot to fix. You have administration that has to be back to being all in. So ask a few more questions, and I'm going to wrap this up because there's not much to talk about other than this team is not good. A few drops on the coaches, running back carries per player, goal line calls, 2 QBs in the second drive with trick plays, bad wildcat calls, no prevent defense. I think it's a summary of where this is at right now. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think that we all question the validity of Fuller and his aptitude to coach Florida State and their defense. I do question that last series, but this game wasn't necessarily on Coach Fuller. This was a loss because of the offense. You can't score 17 points against an FCS team. And after that first drive, I thought going to the trick plays and stuff took this team out of rhythm when they were pushing it down their throat early. They could have ran for 300 yards and 8 clock and gotten out with a 10-point win, which is what this team really needs right now, just continued success, and that is gone. That's gone. And it's really hard to see as a Florida State fan. That's just when does it turn? So I think going into next week, one of my biggest concerns, and something I talked about on the No Game Day podcast, was I wanted to see this team, if last week was an anomaly, which it was, or if this team is moving in the right direction and they handle a team like Jacksonville State like they should, and they did not. So I have a lot of concerns moving on for the rest of the season. I think there's some personnel decisions that have to be made. I understand the rotation at quarterback. You got to go with one till the wheels fall off. There's probably one wheel left right now. The rotation at running back, I know that Norvell likes to rotate, but you have a guy who's hot right now in Corbin, and you have Treshaun Ward who's running really well. You got to hope that Robert Scott is healthy and you can get back to that starting offensive line. I can't say anything negative about the defensive line. I thought they played well. Linebacker continues to be a struggle. And you got to look at the defensive backs and really figure out which 4, 5, or 6 you're going to run with and just go with it. They're at a point now where this is a business decision. You want to rotate and see what you got. You want to tinker with things and use in-game situations to figure out if this will work. That's what practice is for. And, they not everyone's going to play. That's just the nature of the game. You got to figure out who your best 22 are starters, and then you got to figure out who your best 20 are after that in terms of your depth and your role players and the people who your backups in. That's what you roll with for the rest of the season. This team's fragile, fragile mindset. Coming off of Notre Dame, I think they were really disappointed in the way the game ended and the way it ended. From what I was told and understood, that the week of practice was solid. I can assure you the coaches did not expect this performance from the team, and the coaches just got to be better, and that's just simply where it's at. Without getting too much into bashing of everyone, Norvell's got to be better. First and foremost, the coaches got to be better. They got to coach up better. They got to have a better game plan, but the players got to execute because Adam Fuller is not on the field. Mike Norvell's not playing quarterback. Odell Higgins isn't playing defensive tackle. It comes down to the players, and until this team has a increase in talent, that's both starting and depth wise. We're going to see an 8-4, 7-5 program until we can get that talent back. And now Florida State is in a hole, sitting at 0-2, coming off a loss to Jacksonville State. So I appreciate everyone's comments. If you're listening, make sure you hit the thumbs up. This is the post-game chop up with Nate and Steve. We'll be here every week to discuss Florida State, and win or lose, man, we're going to be here. We're going to talk about it. So make sure that you all listen into the Voice of College Football live call-in show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is a live call-in show with live questions. So whatever you ask is going to be addressed. But Florida State loses to Jacksonville State 20-17. We will see you next week. As always, it's Go Knowles. Make sure you follow me at Nate Greer 26 on Twitter. I'm sure I'm going to have a lot to say as we look at this film, break it down, and see what happens to recruiting. It should be an interesting week in Tallahassee. So hit the like button. We appreciate y'all asking some questions, and the chat was very interesting tonight, seeing the meltdown and the Rebel fans come in and give us their 2 cents. It's always appreciated. You live in a glass house, don't throw stones, because your programs are struggling also. So have a great night. We'll see you next week.